Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies. Good morning. Welcome to Monday. It's going to be a great Monday, folks. How is everybody doing? Those of you who are driving, those of you who have just gotten up in the morning, listening early on, I trust all is fine with you all. Anyway, we have a great program scheduled for you today. We have a lot to talk about. Austin is going crazy, is for all practical purposes. We're in many apps, in many ways, where does the hate stop? Why is it that some must be felt as if they continue over and over and over to get persecuted, folks? And this is not just kidding. This is not just kidding. Anyhow, thank you for being here. Please remember that this is your show. You can give us a call at 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738 when you want to call in and say whatever you want to say, given that it's your show. If you don't like what you hear, let me know. If you like what you hear, let me know. If you want to give us any kind of ideas as far as the things you would like covered at this early time in the morning, let us know. Several ways to do that. You can go to KPFT at politicsandright.com, KPFT at politicsandright.com to send me anything that you want me to cover or suggest that we cover here in the mornings. Additionally, if you want to watch the show, you can always go to facebook.com/KPFT Houston. Again, that is facebook.com/KPFT Houston, or on YouTube, you can go to politicsdoneright.tv, politicsdoneright.tv. Anyhow, I want to start the program with an interview I saw last night. But the title of the show is Ag Commissioner Homophobic Dress Code. GOP's gift Democrats, and GOP Legi goes after local attorney generals. Texas Observer journalist Kit O'Connell exposes Texas AG Commissioner Sid Miller. Republican congressman gives Democrats a gift by giving them a narrative they better use. Whatever happened to Republicans' belief in local rule? That's the Attorney General's story. Anyhow, folks, give us a call, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738 if you would like to join the conversation again. Anyhow, GOP gives to Democrats. Dana Bash pointed out that President Biden said he was not going to negotiate on the debt ceiling. After all, that is money already spent by the United States government. She also pointed out that the president will negotiate on budget, but that as much as he would negotiate on budget, that he will not go ahead and do otherwise. So, well, Alistair, I guess there's no audio on the live feed. I'll make sure and take care of that. Anyhow, he won't negotiate on anything otherwise, so we'll take care of that. Republican Majority Whip Tim Emmer claimed that given that the new budget is the same as the 2022 budget, and as such, it is not a cut. Is that really true, though? I think that is one thing people don't quite understand when it comes to the way budgeting works. They don't quite understand how budgeting works. The fact of the matter is, it is a cut, even if the amount goes up, etc. He is playing with his words. As an example, there are 10,000 retirees making $100. That is a bill of $1 million. So let's say you have some retirees that are getting paid by the state. They get $10,000. Each of them get $1,000. That is a bill of $1 million. So there's 10,000 employees, each of them getting $1,000. That's a bill of $1 million, right? Okay. Now, if you go ahead and the next year, 1 year from now, 1,000 more people, they are now on getting that as well, right? 1,000 more people. what do you think is going to happen with that 1,000 more people? They will need to get $1,000 as well. So the national budget for that must go up as well, right? That's not how they see it. They see that, well, if we keep everything the same and that goes the way it should, that shouldn't really matter. Well, that's not how it works. If everybody's to get $1,000 and you get and you get 1,000 more people, that bill increases. And if you don't increase with that bill, each of those people get a cut. That's just basic what again? Math. What is that? Math. All right. So we have to remember how things really work in that regards. So before I finish that, let me go ahead and show that, and then we'll take it on the other side. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll take it on the other side. Republican Majority Whip Tom Emmer appeared on State of the Union with Dana Bash today. And when he spoke about the debt ceiling, about all the cutting that they did, he doesn't want to call them cutting, but in effect, it is cutting. He ended stating, when Dana gave him a way out, are you saying that you just put this bill up because you know it's going nowhere? And this is what he said. Nope, we want this bill, and it would be great if this bill becomes law. What this means is this is what should be used in 2024 to really make Americans understand. These people put into office, this is what it means to the middle class. This is what it means to the poor. This is what it means for the working class. You will be cut as we continue to keep the tax breaks, as we continue to keep the military spending that just favors the wealthy. It means that is what you get. This statement and other statements from these guys should be used around their necks to ensure Americans understand why. Let's listen to it, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Biden, as you know, is still saying he is not going to negotiate over the threat of hitting the debt ceiling and a catastrophic default. He does say he is willing to negotiate separately over spending cuts in the nation's budget. What's wrong with that?
Well, actually, he doesn't have to negotiate. The Republicans in the House, led by Kevin McCarthy, have passed the solution. And I take a little issue, Donna, with the cuts language that the media likes to use all the time. This is a transformational bill. It would limit spending. The savings in it would be close to $5 trillion over the next 10 years. To keep calling these cuts, this is really spending reforms that will put this country on a better path. And by the way, prevents us from defaulting on our debts.
It can be the same thing at once. There are reforms, there are savings, but it is also cutting in several ways to get there. Let me just quickly look deep inside what you did get passed this past week. The bill would cut all non-defense discretionary funding by 22%. That is a lot of money. And I want you to look at what the administration said it would mean just for your home state of Minnesota. Thousands would lose food, they say, rental assistance. They would pay more for college. Outpatient VA appointments for veterans could be cut. This will make a big difference if what you want, this bill, actually would become law. Big difference in the lives of Americans, especially those living paycheck to paycheck. What do you say to them?
What you just said is just not true either, because you should scrutinize what the administration is talking about. What we did was you go back to FY22 baseline budgeting, Donna.
The cuts that I just laid out came from the administration. This is what they claim. You're saying that just is not true. And this is a hypothetical, theoretical question, because what you passed, as we said, is ultimately not going to become the law of the land. But these are very specific cuts that they put out there.
I would hope this becomes the law of the land. Kevin McCarthy and House Republicans have given you the roadmap of how to do that. Okay. Just take the bill we passed last week, Dana. Make it law.
He wants to claim that it's not a cut because they're going back to the 2022 budget. Here is the big lie. If you have 10,000 people that are on retirement, and every year you add another 1,000. If you do not keep up with the growth of those that are retiring, minus the growth of the people who are entering the workforce, and at this point of time, because the baby boomers are at their peak, it means that it costs more. Even given the people no increases, it means it costs more. It is a cut because as more people retire, as more people are rightfully qualifying for the support level that they have, what the Republicans are asking everybody else to do is to take a cut as we bring more people into the system that have earned their way into the system. This should be explained the way it needs to be explained, and they should be paying for cutting what is mostly the food and support to the majority or to a large percentage of mostly their constituents, the Republican current constituents. Let's go ahead and make them into progressive constituents now. And, I think it is so important, folks. And the reason I give that $10,000 example is, if you are predisposed to be a conservative, and by the way, folks, you can give us a call at 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Extension number 2 gets you on air right away. 713-526-5738. Here's what I wish the mainstream media, as in fact, I'm very concerned that even Dana Bash didn't do that, right? They go back and forth with, let's say, high level talk. We are just saying to keep things at the same level that we kept things at in 2022. And she didn't expand on what that meant. She didn't. She should have immediately say, but Congressman, there are more retirees entering into Social Security. Congressman, whenever things go south, in other words, whenever things cost more, we are okay to use inflation to go ahead and build America more, and we don't say anything as usual. Republicans continue to look out for the rich and corporate class. Corporations use inflation to take money away from the working class with undeserved higher prices. Let me stop, because when I say that, that's just sometimes sounds high level as well. Inflation is just something costing more. And, what did the corporations do? They claim that they had a supply chain problem, so they charged what that new price supposedly would cost. We also know that they were ripping us off. I've given you guys videos and all of that to show you where corporations, in effect, when they're talking to their shareholders, they say things like, we love inflation because, in effect, we can go way past what the additional cost is for us and make a lot more money. And if you take a look at their balance sheet, if you take a look at their income statement, if you take a look at their profit loss statements, you see that their profit margins has zoomed across, which actually say they've been doing more than recovering any increased costs that they had. It really means they are taking us to the cleaners. If most Americans understood what these people are doing to us all. Anyway, so inflation, that's what they do. They take it. To cool inflation, the feds take money from the working class by increasing interest rates, right? In other words, they said, inflation is high. They don't tell the corporations, hey, guys, we're going to pass a law that says to prevent inflation, that you're just suckering our people. You're taking. They don't think about laws like that because free capitalism, right? So they won't tell the corporations what to do. But what they would do if we want to keep inflation low is they'll increase interest rates so that all of us pay more in interest. And again, who gets a lot of that interest money? You may think, the Treasury is going to be the one collecting. No, the bankers are the ones that collect a large percentage of that because it is always more than whatever the Fed discount rate is. We have to understand these things so that these politicians and the corporatocracy, those who in the corporate class just don't keep taking us to the cleaners. And we have to realize that we are empowered to put people into power, elect people who understand this and won't allow the system to continue to do what it's doing to us. Anyhow, the defense budget is not decreased, even as there is waste and exploitation. We know there's waste and exploitation in the defense budget. And nobody ever talks about, oh, let's go ahead and cut this. Let's go ahead and cut that. Where is the peace dividend, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, the wealthy and corporations continue to extract more from our economy than they are willing to pay as they continue to live with huge tax cuts. So they're saying we need to balance our budget. We need to make sure that what we take in reflects what we're pulling out so that we don't have deficit spending, so that we continue, so that we don't have to continue borrowing from China and from Japan and buying and from the wealthy, etc. Yeah, I get it. But stop asking every middle class, every working class, every poor American to hold the bill. Let's make sure it's spread more evenly. 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. I know it's early, but if you want your voice is heard, just give us a call, 713-526-5738. Hit the number 2, and we'll go forward. Okay, Dana Bash pointed out the actual cuts that the working class Americans would have to endure. Did it matter to him? Not really. She pointed out quite a few cuts. And I mean, these are vast cuts. If I take a look at them right now, we have 160 fewer rail safety inspections. Whatever happened to, we want to keep it safe so that what occurred in Palestine, East Palestine, Ohio, doesn't again. We lose 112,000 food assistance. We get 109,000 pay more for college, 8,900 lose rental assistance, 128,000 fewer outpatient VA visits. And that's only in the congressman's state. Okay? In Minnesota, that is what a vote for this bill purportedly to keep the outlays from the budget the same for that particular state. That's the amount of people suffer in that small state. Minnesota is a small state. I want you to think about that. That Republican politician wants to take all of that away from the people who elected him. And these aren't giveaways. These are things to make rail safer. These are things to ensure people are fed. But he's willing to take it away. He's not willing to take a bit more, just a bit more, from the wealthy. Dana Bash gave Congressman Tom Emmer an option to soften Republican support for stiffen the working class. He pretty much dug in and made a statement that Democrats must use to paint all these Republican politicians voting for that bill as they should be painted. He said, "I would hope this becomes the law of the land," Emmer said. "Kevin McCarthy and House Republicans have given you the roadmap of how to do that. Just take the bill we passed last week. In other words, stop feeding all those people. Stop protecting the railways. Stop doing all these things that must be cut to do that. Pass the bill that we did last week, Dana, and make it law." So if we make it law, we ensure that we hurt our fellow Minnesotans, our fellow Americans. That's just the truth, folks. But Dana didn't say that. 713-526-5738, extension number 2. 713-526-5738. I'm about to change to another subject. So just before I change, if anybody else wants to talk about this now or subsequently, 713-526-5738, extension number 2. And we'll get you on air right away. All right. Next subject, the Ag Commissioner homophobic dress code. A good friend yesterday afternoon texted me an article from the Texas Observer that he wanted me to cover. Like I said, folks, if you want issues covered here, this is your show. You can always drop me a line at kpft@politicsdoneright.com, or just send me a tweet or something and say, hey, it would be nice if you covered this. So good friend sent me a text yesterday, and he suggested that I contact the author. After reading the article, it was clear that I needed to interview Kit O'Connell, who wrote the article for the Texas Observer. Texas Department of Agriculture, this is what his article stated in the beginning. Texas Department of Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, and this has a national implication because they're doing it all over the state, all over the country. Texas Department of Agriculture TDA Commissioner Sid Miller has received an avalanche of media attention about a new memorandum that requires agency employees to dress in a manner consistent, quote, in a manner consistent with their biological gender. First reported by the Texas Observer on Monday, the policy forces transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming employees into the closets by preventing them from expressing their gender identity. In a Wednesday morning appearance on Spectrum News 1 Austin, Miller doubled down on his anti-trans bigotry. When a man comes dressed in drag or vice versa, it's very disruptive. It's not professional, he told Spectrum. We want to come looking like you're professional and representing. Miller further insisted that the policy revision was necessary after workers returned to the office after the pandemic. After COVID, when everyone was working from home in their pajamas on their couch, they kind of brought that same attitude back to the agency. Miller said, equating trans self-expression with having poor fashion sense. The policy has been widely condemned by both legal experts and LGBTQ+ rights groups who have suggested it could land the department in legal hot water. It is unclear how the policy could be implemented without threatening the rights of queer and trans workers. O'Connell used this interview to enlighten the listener about gender issues. He pointed out that there is a difference between sex and gender. He also points out that the homophobic dress code change should not be surprising, as Ag Commissioner Sid Miller's Twitter feed is decidedly homophobic. It is clear that for O'Connell, this is personal. In a country, well, let me go ahead and play it first, and then I'll finish up that last paragraph. Here we go with the reporter from the Texas Observer, Kit O'Connell. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Today, we are here with Kit O'Connell, who is a genderqueer movement journalist with Texas Observer. Earlier today, I got a text message from a dear friend who also subscribes to the Texas Observer, and he said, Egberto, you really need to speak to this guy, Kit. He just wrote a story. He wrote a story titled Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller doubles down on transphobic dress code. Now I'm going to ask Kit. First of all, welcome to Politics Done Right, Kit. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Actually, yesterday was my birthday, so I'm having a pretty relaxed day.
Well, happy birthday. I guess a bit late, but happy birthday.
Thanks so much.
But anyway, Kit, tell us a little bit about how you came about this story that you wrote. Again, titled AG Commissioner Sid Miller doubles down on transphobic dress code at the Texas Observer.
Yeah, and that was actually the second part of my story. The first part came out this past Monday on April 24th. So on the 21st, I was sent a copy of this dress code by somebody at the Agricultural Department who had received it just a few days before, was wondering what to do about it, really was concerned about its effect on their coworkers. And so they sent it to me at the Texas Observer. And so I got it. So the dress code, it's like a 2-page memo. And if you take the single sentence out that is the really core of the story, if you took that sentence out, it's a very conservative dress code, but not an unusual one. And obviously, we could talk about there's all kinds of issues with dress codes. Are they sexist? Are they racist? Right? We could talk about that. But this dress code has a really extraordinary sentence in it, which is, employees are expected to comply with this dress code in a manner consistent with their biological gender. And so that is in the first paragraph of the dress code. And, I spoke to an employee of the Texas Department of Agriculture, and they told me that they almost missed it at first because, it's a whole memo. It's just kind of hidden in the beginning. But once you notice it, it really stands out. And it really is very important because that sentence seems designed to force genderqueer, trans, any kind of gender nonconforming people at the Texas Department of Agriculture basically into the closet. It says that you have to dress according to your biological gender. Now, if I can take a moment here to talk about sex and gender, just for a second.
That's one of the reasons I wanted you on, to enlighten folks.
So sex and gender are two different things, right? Sex is the arrangement of your genetics and your genitalia and your reproductive organs in general. And at birth, a doctor honestly looks at you and says, no, this looks like a boy or this looks like a girl. That's basically how it happens, to this day. So you're assigned at birth a sex and gender. Now, sex is, again, these three: genetics, genitalia, reproductive organs. But scientists are actually recognizing that when we look at the genetics of people, actually 2 in every 100 people don't strictly match male or female. Just, some of them may even go their whole lives or into their 40s before they get a genetic test or some kind of, medical situation makes the doctor look a little closer at the arrangement of things or, inside. And they realize, oh, this person actually, doesn't exactly fit into society's traditional boxes of male or female. So just to start, sex is a little bit more flexible than most of us were kind of raised to believe, right? But then gender is kind of a whole social construct that's put on top of sex. For people who are cisgender, meaning that the sex they're assigned at birth matches their gender expression, there's not much difference. A lot of people go through lives without really recognizing the difference between sex and gender because there's two match up. But gender actually is a social construct built around all the roles and stereotypes and just assumptions that people have around people based on how they kind of come across as what's traditionally masculine or traditionally feminine in our society. And it varies from society to society, what we assign to that. It's varied all through history. If we look through history, there have been dramatically different ideas of what men and women are supposed to do and how they're supposed to dress, right? Men's fashion, men used to wear high heels. That was originally a male, fashion. It's changed through history. There's no single thing that gender has meant through history almost. So, and then of course we have people who are transgender, who are genderqueer or non-binary like myself, and people who are just in some way not conforming to male or female gender. And all of those people differ a bit from their gender or what people assume based on how they were assigned at birth. Right. Yeah. Now, all these things I've been talking about, if you think about just that phrase biological gender, if you actually, like, sex is really the biological part and gender, like I've been saying, is the social part. So the biological gender is kind of this made up phrase that doesn't really mean anything, or maybe it means whatever Sid Miller, the agriculture commissioner, wants it to mean. And his name was in seal or on this memo. So as far as we know, it comes right from his office, this new dress code. Prior to this, employees had a fairly standard, again, conservative dress code, but didn't have any mention of biological gender. And, of course, people who were gender nonconforming or non-binary or trans, had to negotiate whatever stereotypes or issues in our society. But hopefully, I know that there are LGBTQ plus employees at the Department of Agriculture who've been living their lives and doing their jobs, right? And now all of them are wondering, what does this mean for me? How do I express myself? I'm sitting here talking to you. I'm wearing a dress, today. And, based on the sex I was assigned at birth, the gender I was assigned at birth, assigned to male at birth, I don't match that. Does that mean that I would get in trouble if I wore, a tasteful, knee-length dress to this office. Because it does say that, women in this dress code can wear pants, but if they wear, dresses, they can't be too short. The skirt can't be too short. So like if I have this dress on, would I be getting in trouble? Would I get fired? My office that I go into, the Texas Observer, people there are accepting of me as who I am, as someone who's not cisgender. And so if I show up in a skirt one day, no one looks twice, or they say, hey, that's a great skirt, Kit, but no one's going to get me in trouble. It's not something I have to think about, fortunately. And a lot of workers these days happily are in offices that are accepting. And I think up till now, even many of the offices at the Department of Agriculture, probably depending on where they are, we're accepting of them. And this dress code throws that into disarray. I was the first person to write about this on like I said, on Monday, but since then the media has been, responding to it and repeating the story. And a few of them, we weren't able to get a comment from Sid Miller or the Agriculture Office, but a few of them have.
And you still haven't been able to get to him, right?
No, I've tried multiple times. I've called their press contact. I've been trying polite emails. I just would like to ask some questions of them, but they won't respond to me. But they have, I think, he's had some press appearances, and he also came on our local Spectrum, cable news recently. And he's been sort of defending it and saying basically that this is just about professionalism. And again, if you took that sentence about biological gender out, you could look at this dress code and say, okay, people were working from home during the beginning of the pandemic. Now they're back at the office, and the people are saying, hey, it's time to dress, back in your suits in professional wear, not in your casual wear. And
right.
Whatever, that's their right to say that as managers, right? We can talk about that, but that's not unusual. A lot of people are getting probably some kind of form of that dress code, like, hey, you can't wear pajamas to the office. But so that's what Sid Miller's trying to say. But then he's kind of equating it. He's saying, well, the way he's phrased it when he's talked to the press is that if a man in a dress, so already we have problems. This is not.
Well, he's using the terminology that's being used right now to inflict, to attempt at embarrassing the LGBTQ community. It's like what they did to the to Zephyr in Montana, or what they've done to others. There's this drive to attack trans. There's this drive to attack LGBTQ folks, even in our own state legislature, where they're going crazy with this thing as if they want a particular talking point to rile up people. What many don't understand is while people felt freer to come out as who they are. These are things I had to learn myself. People feel freer to come out as who they are. This is nothing new. From what I understand, even back in the days of Judaism, in those days, they defined it as the 7 genders or something like that several millennia ago. Am I correct?
Well, all different societies have had different ways of handling it. There's not a universal way, but certainly, yes, people who don't fit within the strict role of male and female have existed all throughout history. One thing people have compared it to often is left-handedness, where for a long time people were punished for showing their left-handedness.
Right.
And then as soon as they stopped punishing them, suddenly there were more left-handed people. Now, there wasn't like a mutation in the human person that made us have more left-handed people. It's just people stopped having to hide that side of themselves. And so what we've seen is that, in a similar way, especially among like younger generations, happily, there's a real acceptance among, like the Generation Z, for example, they are extremely accepting of each other on the whole, gender divergence, of gender nonconforming classmates and friends, family members. And so more of them have felt free to come out. And there's also has been, not perfect as we know, but a general opening of the doors of sort of acceptance in some parts of society. The Republicans are trying to close those doors again, but there have been, up until relatively recently, teachers have felt okay about saying, it's okay to come out in my classroom. This is a safe space. And some of them even for a while felt safe talking about their own same-sex relationships in some educational settings. Just like a straight, teacher might talk about their spouse, Same-sex people talk about it, and that just increases acceptance. It makes people feel okay. Things have, unfortunately, the Republicans are really trying to push about this. There's a real, you use the word embarrass, and I just want to gently correct that really it's about trying to make it so trans and gender nonconforming people can't really participate in society, that they don't feel safe being out and being out in public, whether that's limiting access to bathrooms, restricting how we dress through so-called drag bans, whether that's restricting what teachers are allowed to talk about, whether they're allowed to offer some things. I heard about something really extraordinary that happened in Houston just over the last couple of days that I think shows how strange things have gotten. Some students, this one came out in a local paper in Houston. I'm sorry, I don't remember the one right now, which one it was.
Houston Chronicle.
Yes, thank you. Houston Chronicle. But they were going to go to a play of James and the Giant Peach. And in that play, there are many characters that are literally insects, like talking insects that are, friends of James inside of the Giant Peach. And because some of those insects, their gender in the book differed from the gender of the actor inside the costume, there was pressure on some of these schools who had to cancel some of their school trips to go see James and the Giant Peach, which, is not some new, radical left, piece of literature. It's something that's been around for a while and has, I think, fairly basic values that I thought we all used to accept, like friendship and working together and overcoming adversity, things like that. But here we are, now we have to worry about what's the gender of the insects that our children might see on a stage. It's very, very far from what I thought, things were going to be like.
Well, you know what? And one of the reasons I wanted to highlight this story that you wrote is because I think as these a lot of folks, these guys work behind closed doors, and if this person hadn't passed that letter on to you, it would have never been known. Now the idea is to make sure all of Texas understand that we have an AG that seems to be nothing more than a homophobe. And in having an AG that is a homophobe, maybe you can't write that, but I can say that because that is exactly what I see displayed in what I saw in the writing, and that you cannot.
You're saying I just want to say the agricultural commissioner you're talking about, although, I do have.
Oh, did I call? I said AG. I'm sorry. Yeah, agricultural.
It's okay. Agricultural commissioner, which we do sometimes shorten with ag, but I don't want to confuse people with the attorney general, who we have to have a separate conversation about. So
that's a long conversation with the AG. Yes, I know, absolutely.
But so there's but I mean, people, if they want more evidence, they can just go look at Sid Miller's Twitter, where he's been tweeting up a storm over the last week or so of all kinds of homophobic stuff. So he's really not hiding it, but he might have hit it a little more if we hadn't talked about this. And the reason that I'm linking it to all this stuff, like these other issues, including what's happening at our legislature right now, which we can talk about, is it is all connected. It's all, like you said, it's part of this overall campaign to make life difficult for LGBTQ plus people, regardless of where they're at. Again, is it sports? Is it schools? Is it bathrooms? Is it our workplaces now? It's all, they're trying to make it hard no matter where they are. And I do want to mention
off the top of your head, Kit, what particular bills in the legislature concerns you with respect to the LGBTQ community that we can go ahead and make sure and start to highlight?
Yeah, I mean, so many. There are, the Washington Post actually did a great map recently and showed that there have been just this record number of bills across the country. And there've been something like 40 proposed in Texas just this legislative session. So that's since January, when things kind of got started slowly. They ramp up slowly, but there've been 40 over this legislative session targeting LGBTQ people in some way. Trans rights, talking about LGBTQ in school. The most immediate one that's coming up, and I believe it's SB 14, is going to be heard on Tuesday at the Texas legislature. And that is a bill that is, if it passes, and it unfortunately is expected to pass on Tuesday, most likely, it's going to go to the governor's desk, where he considers this a priority. If this bill passes, it'll essentially make healthcare for trans young people illegal. And the Republicans use a lot of shocking language to talk about it. They'll talk about young people this is their talking points. They talk about young people being sterilized or their bodies being mutilated, but that's not what we're talking about for people. When you talk about people under 18, what trans healthcare involves is, therapy, to help them socially transition. That means, learn to use their pronouns and express themselves. Right. And in some cases, it's things like puberty blockers, which is like a reversible drug that basically slows down puberty as the person's aging. And that can really help people because, for example, someone who's assigned female at birth, but feels non-binary or feels masculine, for them to develop breasts, for example, could be really traumatic for them. That could be a really strong divergence from who they feel they are inside. And these puberty blockers, if somebody starts them early enough, they can help a person feel like themselves as they get older. They work with therapists and stuff, as they develop. And as they're older, there's more options that open up to them. But it's not something that's rushed into. I think that's the most important thing. This is kind of healthcare that happens between young people by their feelings, very strong feelings that some of them feel since birth. I since birth, essentially felt non-binary. And if their parents and expert doctors, this takes years to go through this process. This isn't something that like you wake up and tomorrow they give you surgery or even they give you the puberty blockers. You work with a lot of experts. It's hard to access. It's slow, but they want to shut the door to this completely, and I know people I've known here for years who they own land here in this area. They consider themselves Texans. They're part of this state, and they're going to have to leave in the next few months. They're having to pull up stakes before the end of the year because they have an under 18 trans person. Yeah, and they're going to lose access.
I actually know a family here. I know a family here in Kingwood that is going through the same thing. They're going to have to pull up and leave because it's going to become illegal for their kid who is transitioning to fully make that transition. Look, kid, I got to go out. We're fixed on time here. Give me about a 1 minute closer and let's get out of here.
My 1 minute closer is one that I've been saying anytime I appear on something. Is just this is a really extraordinary time in the United States, for trans people, for LGBTQ people, but for all of us, for democracy. We need to find ways to stand up for each other. All these issues are connected, whether it's LGBTQ plus issues, racial justice, bodily autonomy, it's all connected. We all need to stand up for each other. Find a way to support each other, whether that's donating money, whether that's going to protest, whether that's offering a place for queer trans people to stay if they need it, whether that's supporting your local media, the local journalism like the Texas Observer. Just find some way to help out, support the journalists and the news that matters to you. And just get active. There's a million ways to get involved, but everybody needs to do something right now. So this is a moment where we just can't sit on our butts and do nothing.
Kit O'Connell, journalist at the Texas Observer. Thank you so kindly for having been here on Politics Done Right.
Anytime. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely so, folks. Please, folks, give us a call, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Hit extension 2 to get online. Let's go ahead and go on to Johnny. Johnny, come on in, and Alistair will be next. Johnny, come on in. There we go.
I just heard it. I liked your guest's analogy with the left versus right hand.
That really touched me as well. It is such a smart sentence. Go ahead.
Yeah, because people can relate to that. They can understand that some people are born inherently wanting to naturally use their left hand versus the right hand. And we have for generations been forcing people against their nature to use their right hand. And now with science understanding more and more about brain development, society has followed suit and been more tolerant and understanding maybe, and allowing left-handedness to be expressed so these people can function better. And so I'd like to simplify the situation for Republicans, especially Republican Party politicians. My analogy is the caveman. The Republicans right now are trying to reinvent the wheel, both by relitigating and re-legislating. But go back to your brethren, the caveman, the Neanderthal. They were smart enough to know that you can't make a wheel triangle. Why? Because you'd be jumping up and down all day and getting kidney damage. A wheel is round and smooth. Okay? Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't reinvent the wheel. Gender and gender expression and biology, they are intertwined. They're intertwined. They're not static. It always has been that way. Homosexuality has always been a part of the animal world, not just humans, but the animal world, as far back as we could tell. It's just a natural occurrence. You can attribute it to background radiation. I don't care. But the fact is, God makes mistakes all of a sudden? No. So, remember,
look, Johnny, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Fluid, like the wheel. The wheel is fluid. Gender and biology are intertwined. They're fluid. Body and mind can't be separated from biology. They're intertwined. That's why you have good days and sometimes you feel you've got bad days. Why? Because maybe your body's not doing too good. And so, guess what? Your emotions will sometimes follow. End of story.
Thank you so kindly for calling in, Johnny. As usual, you always have something enlightening to say. And I love the caveman analogy, but most importantly, I like the part that tell folks, let's remember, things have always been this way. How we handle this, what's making a difference. Thank you so kindly for calling in, Johnny.
God bless you. Stay safe. Remember,
thank you, sir.
Republicans out there with guns and they think they're right.
All right, brother. Let's go to Alistair. Alistair, how you doing, my dear sister? Come on in.
Hey, good morning, brother. Good morning, everybody.
How is my lady doing? Talk to me.
Oh, my goodness. Well, first off, Johnny, thank you. You said it perfectly with everything today. And your interview, brother, with Kit was wonderful. And I'm really glad that you got in touch with him and were able to bring Sid Miller's disgusting opinion, front and center.
You know, Alistair, the issue, though, with Sid is his is no longer just an opinion, my sis. He actually has power to impact people's lives, and that is what's so dangerous with
his opinion.
Right.
He's implementing his opinion on everybody's lives. What does that sound like to you? Maybe authoritarianism?
Yes.
I mean, come on. The solution, the simple solution, vote people like that out. And if there is nobody on the other side to contest that person, get involved with your local Democratic club and get someone rallied to stand up to that. Living in Montgomery County, you'll be hard pressed to find a Democrat opponent in an election, but we got to make it happen. We have to support them and rally and all of that. The next thing I really wanted to touch on, we should all just wear dashikis. We should all just wear dashikis, especially people that identify as non-binary or trans or anything, even heterosexual and cisgendered, and everybody should wear dashikis. Period.
There you go. From Alistair's mouth.
A nice little protest.
I hear you. I got to go pull my dashiki out. I haven't worn a dashiki in like 20 something years. I had this orange dashiki that I used to wear,
One made. I have family that is Nigerian, and I am going to have someone make me one because I don't know how, and I'm not good with sewing, but I know people.
Alistair, thank you so kindly for calling in, my beautiful lady. You have a great one, okay?
You too, brother. Have a good one.
All right, 713-526-5738 is the number, 713-526-5738. Hit extension 2 and you will get to us right away. El Señor David is on line 3. Come on in, David. Folks, don't forget, 713-526-5738. Hit extension numero 2 and you'll be able to talk to me. Talk to me, David. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Egberto. Yeah,
yes.
I guess I'll be beating a dead horse again. What Sid Miller and the Republicans are doing, here it is in a nutshell, Egberto. It's called the biblical worldview. And let me quote a scripture from you. I don't remember exactly where. I know it's in the book of Leviticus, but it says something to this effect: if a man wears clothes as a woman and a woman wears clothes as a man, they should be taken outside the city and stoned to death. So in the Bible, in the Old Testament, that was a death sentence. It was capital crime. And also, I know there's a lot of gay people out there that don't like to confront the reality of the Bible that homosexuality is condemned in the Bible. And once again, in the book of Leviticus, it says that if a man sleeps with a man as with a woman, or a woman with a woman as with a man, they shall be taken outside the city and stoned to death. Now, Paul, in the first chapter of Romans, he condemns homosexuality, and it's all you have to do is read it. I think it's Romans chapter 1, verse 22, in that area. And he says, man with men, women with women, doing that which is unnatural, and they receive in them the just rewards of their. And he condemns very vociferously, says that they will receive the condemnation of God. But this is the thing about it. The Republicans are desperately trying to establish in this country a theocracy. The word theocracy means the rule of religion. And this is what they want. They don't care about democracy. They never did. And they want to, Hitler in Mein Kampf, he basically referred to democracy nonsense.
I think,
yeah.
I think, David, you're alluding to if we were to, I think this is what I get from what you're saying, because I was wondering exactly where you're going. And I think you're pretty much saying that if we go down the line that the GOP is going down right now, ultimately speaking, we're going to be in a society for whatever people do. If you decide to follow these particular books within the Bible, we're in for a whole lot of killing in this country. So, it is a place that we don't want to go. Now, there's another thing that I want to add to what you're saying. I know you read two different passages, one in the New Testament, one in the Old Testament, speaking about homosexuality, etc., or whether it's of God or not. And I have a friend who went to seminary, and he actually did a TikTok video pointing out that the Bible never quite spoke about homosexuality as the Republicans do. And he also said, there were 7 times, I think he told me this, I could be wrong with the number, but something on the order of, there's 7 times that this sort of issue was mentioned in the Bible. But you know how many times love was mentioned? And all these other issues that affect all of us, and some that only, relative to heterosexuals. And he said, how many times it's spoken about that? In effect, we have concentrated on something. We have concentrated on something that concentration has done a whole lot of harm. Give me a little bit more what you want to say, David. And folks, I can take maybe another call, 713-526-5738, extension numero 2, extension number 2, 713-526-5738. Go ahead, David.
There's one more scripture that I would like to quote. And this is something that Jesus said. It's in the book of Luke chapter 19, verse 27. You'd have to read the story to gain the context of it. But I think my interpretation of it is correct. And Jesus was talking about himself here. People like to talk about what a nice guy Jesus was. But he was, the parable is about a ruler that went to receive unto himself a kingdom. When he left it, the people in the kingdom said, we do not want this man to rule over us. When the ruler came back, and as the scripture goes in Luke chapter 19, verse 27, Jesus says these words, and for those of mine enemies who would not allow me to rule over them, bring them here and slay them before me so I may watch them die. Now, this is the kind, loving, understanding, merciful Jesus who said that. And all I could say is this: you need to read the chapter in order to gain the context of it. And examine it and ask yourself, do you think my interpretation is correct?
Okay, David, thank you for calling. I only have about a minute left and one last call to take in that. 45 seconds that I'll have with that call if it comes. Thank you so kindly for calling in, David. You have a wonderful rest of your day. So, folks, it always seems like time flies when you're having fun. It always seems like time flies when you're having fun. I don't know if Howard is going to be able to pass that one on, but I don't think so. But anyhow, folks, we are coming close to the end of the program. I think I'm told I have a minute or so left. Look, the whole issue, the two subjects that I covered today, two important subjects. The first one is, please, as you're hearing the debate on the debt ceiling, as you listen to the debate on the debt ceiling, please don't be snowed by the false narrative. When you hear something like, we're not cutting, we are just keeping things the way they are, at the same prices the way they are. If you are a Social Security recipient, if you are a Medicare recipient, if you are a Medicaid recipient, I want you all to realize that every year, because of the baby boom generation, we get more and more people until that wave ends. We get more and more people who have earned and paid in and earned the right to those services. Let's be clear here. If you listen to this person say, we're keeping things the same, for all of you current recipients who think you may want to keep things the same, that means a cut in your check, a cut in what will be given to you. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. I thank you so kindly for being here. So I'm Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.